Great, guys. Hey, we are live with David Kinsman from Farm Bureau Insurance. David, how you doing today?
Yeah, man, doing good, doing good.
Great, man. Great. So, man, I brought you on the show to talk about insurance, right? And a lot of people may have thought this was a life insurance show when it's actually an investor-friendly life insurance show.
Yeah,
Right? And we want to talk about different ways today where we can actually secure our investment properties, whether it's flooding, fire, things of this nature.
yeah,
We had a REI meeting that you actually invited us to a couple weeks ago, and in that REI meeting, you were actually speaking. In that meeting, there were a lot of questions asked, pertaining to real life real estate investments.
yeah.
Um, so I just want to start there really quick about because most of the people that we have on the show are come from a wholesale background and then got into real estate. You're in insurance, so you're automatically in real estate, and you have real estate
hmm
for you for you as a insurance agent who deals with Fireburn Homes. This is actually how we met, through Fireburn Home.
Yep.
Um, Fireburn Home, things of this nature. What made you get into, insurance?
Insurance, man. So that's where the money's at. So, um, yeah, financially, it's definitely rewarding. It's good. But man, I was exiting in the military, and I was looking for something different to do. And there was two main things that was important to me. One, I wanted to kind of have ownership in whatever I was doing. Wanted to run my own business. Wanted to be in charge. The second one is I wanted something where I was still helping people. So that was key. Whatever it was, I wanted to make sure it was positive to the community, to the people I was working with. I was doing a good service. So insurance kind of just hit both of those check marks, and it kind of worked out. So hopped in it.
Most definitely, man. And going back, I remember seeing one of your pictures when you actually had the uniform on. And I like to say, along with the wholesale with Lenny community, man, thank you for your service. We definitely appreciate you. Um, now I am acquiring in a house tomorrow,
hmm
which is a flip, which would be my first flip that I bought.
Okay.
Excuse me, my first property that I'm buying a whole that I'm closing with a title company under on the finance, right? Because I have a few contracts on the financing, etc. But tomorrow, one is actually closing under on the financing, and it's a rehab. What insurance would you recommend for me? Just getting in the game, this being my first property that I'm actually gonna fix and hold. What kind of insurance would you recommend for me?
Yeah, so there's the biggest one right off the bat. So anytime you're buying a property that you plan on flipping, whether it's a flip and hold or flip and sell, whatever your plan is, that policy or that property is going to be sitting vacant for some time. Whether that's a 30-day flip, 90-day, 180-day, even a year-long flip, depending on what you got going on this property. So getting the right insurance is actually extremely important for that. And so where people get caught up a lot is they'll just go buy home insurance. They'll just call up their local agent or whatever, and they'll just get a standard homeowner policy for this vacant rehab flip house that they're working on. And home insurance has a 30-day vacancy clause. So if that policy is vacant, or not that policy, I'm sorry, if that property is vacant while you're in your rehab process and something happened to it, caught on fire, storm, tornado, whatever, that home insurance company has every right to decline that claim because it's outside of their guidelines, and the policy wasn't written correctly for the property it was. So the first one's make sure you're buying the right property, or the right policy. You're getting an insurance policy for your property that's going to cover the vacancy periods, the rehab process, everything else you got going on as well. So that's key. The second one, I would say, So no, good question for you, Lenny. When you're doing this flip yourself, are you subcontracting 100% of the work out, or are you hiring guys and like building a team and going in and flipping this yourself?
Ah, because that will factor into my insurance, correctly?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so for that example, I'm contracting all the work out.
Okay. Yeah, so which is fine. I mean, most of the time you're either doing it all yourself, you're doing some, you're contracting some, or you're contracting the whole project out. So none of it's wrong. But another thing to be thinking about is how liability works. So a lot of times when we're buying these real estate properties, obviously we want the structure covered in case something happens. We also want to make sure we're protected liability senses so no one tries to sue us for all of our assets. So liability is the second biggest thing. So most time when you get the policy to cover the property, it'll come with liability. Majority of the time, there's a liability extension that's going to go with it. That liability is for personal use. So that's another big one where it can get you mixed up at. Personal use, meaning if you're on the property or you had a neighbor or you brought someone else on there and something happened. But when you're hiring contractors out and you're paying people to be on that property, that's no longer personal. That's now commercial. So for a lot of people that I would recommend, if you're going in and you're going to be doing this quite a bit, you're going to be flipping houses and holding or flipping and selling, it makes no difference. And you're going to be contracting people in to come work. Another liability policy you should consider would be like a general liability for contractors. So, you can go get a liability only, or there's a couple ways you can do it, but you get a liability policy to cover for your general work. So that would cover you if one of your contractors came out there and they got hurt. All right. And they tried suing you over their injury, or, anything like that kind of happened work wise on the premise. So the liability is different, from personal to commercial or, your general work like that. So sometimes it's best, especially if you're going to be doing it quite a bit, to get both type of liability policies to cover you. Yeah.
Nice, nice. So, a lot of people figure like I don't know why, but once you close in, that little closed window on the property, when you may have title insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Some people may think that this title insurance carries over after closing, and you have insurance on your home, which is not the case.
Yeah.
You actually have to have a separate policy written for your investment property. So now, let's say I do have, these guys come over and I get, let's say I have $1 million policy, right? And then I
Mm-hmm.
may have $1 million errors and omissions, right? And let's just say one of my subcontractors who contracts for me brings a nephew onto the job, and that
Mm-hmm.
nephew get hurt, during that job. Will I still be liable?
Yeah, yeah, you very can. And the law gets so tricky on a lot of that stuff, and then it varies depending on the state you're in as well. Some states are going to have different rules on how the laws are set up for whether you're going to be liable. But I mean, for the most part, the states all kind of share the same rule on that. So what you would actually want to get is a workman's comp policy. And what that workman comp will cover is the medical bills, the loss of income, all the treatment. So it's a little bit different than a liability. So like a liability claim, it's pretty much just going to cover your medical bills. That's it. Where your work comp will cover your medical bills and your loss of income. So yeah, that's another one, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of flips yourself, you're going to be hiring people on. So there's two ways you can go about that. And so the cheapest way for you would be make sure your contractors have workman comp insurance. And to make sure of that, anytime you're going to start hiring guys, especially if you're going to be keeping them around for a while, ask to be listed as an additional insured on their policies, on their general liability and their workman's comp. It doesn't cost you a thing. But what that does is extends the liability and the coverage over to you as well. But then those insurance companies will also send you copies of their policy for the work comp and their general liability. And so if they, quit paying it and it cancels, they're going to send you a letter letting you know, hey, XYZ company's insurance coverage has just canceled. And so you'll know immediately. So that would be the cheapest way. The other way is just to buy a policy for yourself and, covering it at a certain amount. So if in a situation like that happened, you'd have coverage for it to fall back onto. Yeah.
That is what's up. So, I mean, man, it seems like a lot goes into insuring property. Um, I know people don't think about this stuff. Now, I actually have a clause in my contract that actually states that if a fire does happen,
Mm-hmm.
that I can still elect to close and accept some of the life insurance proceeds because I had the property contract. Have you ever ran into this situation before where someone's buying a home from someone, they got insurance on the home, and before they close, a fire happens? Right. In that scenario, what would be like where would a person with an active policy stand in that type of scenario?
Yeah. So that's a good one. I have seen it. I haven't seen it with a house fire, but I've seen it with roof claims and other kind of stuff. Weather claims came through, and the day before closing. So it's really nothing to stress a ton about. It really isn't. So in your scenario, Lenny, we're just going to say I'm going to buy the property off of you, and we're a day from closing, and your house catches on fire. So we can still close because you'll turn around, you'll file that insurance claim. Now I'm probably going to want to readjust that contract with you pretty dang fast, but it really isn't going to mess up your closing. So you would file the insurance claim, with your home insurance company, and then you could turn around and close tomorrow and cancel the home insurance policy. It doesn't matter because the company's still on the hook for the time period where it goes through. So yeah, you'd still be good. Yeah, it wouldn't mess you up too bad. Now, of course, trying to close on the home and everything would be a hassle. So yeah. Did that answer your question?
Now, I actually see on the screen someone said, make absolutely certain you have vandalism coverage for
Mm-hmm.
$20,000. Could you speak on that?
Yeah. So vandalism, pretty obvious what that would kind of cover up to 20 grand. I mean, I guess it kind of depends on the property you're buying, if that's a good coverage amount for you as well. Again, that's just going to come to the insurance company if you can get that coverage. There's, a handful out there that'll offer vandalism. There's even more out there that won't, just because it's a pretty high claim. Getting it, yeah, is definitely going to be handy, especially if you're in some rough areas and you're worried about, some bums coming in and messing up your stuff. But yeah, trying to find an insurance company that has it though, that's going to be kind of key, just because a lot of them don't want to, because it's an easy insurance fraud claim. So a lot of them just want to stay out of it.
Yeah, I definitely get that. Every hour or so, you get somebody calling in with a claim about somebody written on their garage or
Mm-hmm.
sidewall. So yeah, I can definitely see a lot of companies not rushing to pay that out
Yeah.
due to the smallest things. So what you just mentioned, someone may break into your property or vandalize your property. Also, in my contract, there's a clause that states, um, hold on, if someone tears out the wiring, that's 10,000. Someone just said, um, yeah, but so now property I have now, I went over there earlier today. Another property I'm closing on tomorrow. Somebody kicked in the back door again.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and in my contract as well, we also have that clause. Like I said, to be able to collect, to be able to collect. Sorry about that. To be able to collect on the insurance policy. For a person that's selling a home, we have the clause that the property has to remain insured until closing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you on the seller side? Have you ran into that problem too as well? Someone may have, someone may be squatting in the property before closing, or squatters may be in and out of the property, which is, that's a common thing in Springfield, certain areas. If the property's not locked up tight or there's not enough activity on that street. Have you handled a squatter's claim before?
Not a squatter's claim, no. No, I've been fortunate, haven't had to mess with those type of claims, but I've definitely had some claims where tenants on their way out just trashed the place, pretty intentional, and just ruined it on their way out. But yeah, no squatters yet. No, that would be a rough one. I don't even know. I don't even know how insurance would work with that. I mean, if they damage the property, that one's a pretty obvious claim, and for that to go through. But if they were just chilling and didn't want to leave, yeah, I don't really think insurance would kick in to cover anything for that.
Right, right, right. Yeah. Because most of the houses, excuse me, guys, most of the houses they do actually, they go in and might take a crap in the floor or
Hmm.
leave a few needles laying around, et cetera, et cetera. I've really found that out lately that people have been doing that a lot. Now, for me, with this property that I'm buying, closing on tomorrow, it is a rehab.
Yeah.
It's I want to say 264 square feet, I believe. Small, one right on the corner, big lot. What insurance would you recommend for me to have for that before I start my rehab period? Or should I get what? Excuse me. Let me reframe this. Um, while those guys are working on before they work on the property, obviously I want to have a policy on the property. But while those guys are working on the property, or when they begin to work on the property, would I need to switch policies over, or how would that work?
Yeah. So what I'd probably recommend is just going straight into the vacant rehab policy. As soon as you close on it, we're just gonna get that one going because I'm assuming you're buying it empty, and whether it sits there for a week or a month until your guys can get in there. Either way, it's gonna sit for a little bit. So yeah, I just go straight into a vacant rehab policy, which kind of covers that time frame while you're remodeling it, because that vacancy, those rehab policies, their vacancy clause is 180 days. And then in 180 days, if you're still working on it, it just automatically renews and gives you an additional 180 days. So it covers you for those type of claims. But then if you're worried about the house catching on fire, storm coming through and jacking it up, those type of things, then you're good. So when you close tomorrow, that's probably what we'll just get set up for you. It's just that exact one. And then once you're done with it, that's when we'll move it over to like a tenant occupied home, increase the coverages, get it how exactly what we want it to do, and then just roll it as a tenant occupied policy.
Okay, sweet. So we won't be keeping the same policy.
No.
We'd have that one policy coverage for that period of time.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, once it's occupied, the insurance switches over to cover, more things.
Yep. Yep.
That
Absolutely.
that is great. There's somebody on Facebook actually just told me that about the difference between cash value and replacement cost insurance.
Yeah.
When and why would you use one or the other?
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes people will do it for a premium savings. Actual cash value policies are going to be cheaper than replacement cost. So, there's times we'll get those done for people. Most of the time when people are buying houses that they're flipping or going to be remodeling, they're usually ACV, actual cash value. So 90% of the time, that's what they're buying out the gate. So the policies are cheaper. It works for the insured, works for the insurance company. So it's mutually beneficial for both parties on it. But so like in your case, we'll most likely set up an actual cash value. We'll get the policy amount up there to cover all your money you're putting in plus all your rehab costs. So if anything happens, all the money you put into it, you're still safe. And then once that home gets done and you get a tenant into it, then we'll go ahead and just move it over. That's when we'll probably get our replacement cost policy up there, throw the coverages up a lot higher to cover all the other expenses that could occur with it as well. But yeah, now on that's where you can be careful too, because replacement costs, like, I'm not sure. Are you familiar with what the difference is between replacement cost and actual cash value?
No, not at all. And I'm glad it's a great question.
Yeah. So yeah, it is. People that gets people a lot. So like if you're talking like on your personal home, you don't ever want to have actual cash value on your personal home ever. Like it never makes any sense. And if you got a policy that way, you need to get a new one fast. So what ACV is it'll take like the actual value of your home. And so a lot of times what they'll do is they'll take what was the appraisal value amount of it, or, what it would be in perfect condition. And then it's just crazy math after that. And they'll bring that number pretty dang low. And so it can really hurt some people a lot, especially if you go out and you get a $200,000 home and you buy $200,000 worth of actual cash value insurance on it, and that house burns to the ground. Like, the insurance company is very likely just cut you a check for $100,000, and that's it. Regardless, that you still also will owe another $100,000 on your home through the loan. So it can hurt you bad. Where we see it a lot too is on roofs. Insurance companies will put ACV values on roofs, and then, if you're in an area like Missouri, you're going to get hit with a lot of hail. So hail claims come through here. I mean, I'm sure you've been here long enough. You've seen these hailstorms come through and just jack up some roofs and cars. So they'll put that ACV value on it. And I've straight up watched someone lose their home to foreclosure because of an ACV value roof. And yeah, this was some stuff. What ended up happening is she had, different policy in another company. It wasn't to do anything with me, but I was friends with her. Her house got hit by hail. Went to go file the hail claim. Roof was leaking. I mean, she was getting water inside her house. It was jacking up the ceilings and everything. And it was like just shy of $15,000 to refix the roof, the ceiling, everything else she had going on. And her insurance company cut her a check for under $5,000. And that was it. So the remaining, almost $10,000, it came out to like about 9,500 was completely left on her. And
Wow.
wasn't making a lot of money, was a single mom at the time. So she just literally could not afford to fix the house. She was also, because she only lived in the house for like maybe a year or two. So she had no equity built into the house, not enough to go try to pull an equity loan
Right.
for 9-10 grand to get this finished up. So she couldn't afford it. And then the water damage got so bad, it got all moldy, and it got to the point where the house was then unlivable. So she just had to walk away and foreclose on the house. So yeah, getting the wrong insurance policy can definitely screw you over as well if you're not careful. So uh, on the replacement cost side, replacement cost is exactly what it is. You're gonna get a brand new. So brand new roof, brand new everything. So like if you think about it on your personal house as well, you had a house fire, lost it all. You could be sitting on 20-year-old couches and 10-year-old TVs and all this stuff. It could be all Goodwill and secondhand stuff. You're getting it all brand new. You go straight to the furniture store and buy it brand new, and they're giving you the money to do so. So that's the biggest difference, is how much money you're going to get when it comes claim time. It can be drastically different.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it. I remember at the REI meeting, a few weeks ago, you had somebody actually brought this up, and you had actually brought up this situation. What is the difference in the cost of ACV CS versus? I mean, excuse me. What is the difference in cost of an ACV versus a replacement cost typically?
Yeah, so it'll depend. But I mean, you're probably anywhere between 200 to 500-600 bucks a year, just depending on how much coverage you're doing. Obviously, the higher the coverage, probably the more you'll save on it. Lower coverage amount, probably not as much of a difference. Um, but a lot of times where it can get it. So, like, all right, so I was just working on this one. Um, had one of my investors. They just bought a new property. They're gonna be closing it on it, and they're buying it for under 60 grand. They know that roughly they're gonna end up putting in probably about 20 grand worth of rehab work into it. And when all said and done, that the property would probably be worth over 150. So this is an awesome deal for them. But they're closing on it. So what we ended up doing is writing an ACV policy. Now, if we wanted to go full replacement cost on it, we were going to have to insure it for like over $200,000. So if they wanted replacement, they would have to buy $200,000 worth of coverage. And they didn't want to mess with it, didn't want that much coverage, all that stuff. So they were fine. We brought it down quite a bit. So we ended up insuring it for all their money they're going into it, all the rehab cost, all said and done right out the gate. And so we took it on the ACV. That was about almost 50%. I mean, it literally cut the bill in half. But again, we also cut the coverage more than half as well, so it kind of adds into the factor. But kind of same situation for those investors. Once they get the flip done, they get it back up to a pretty good market value on that property. We're just going to roll it over, put the replacement cost on it for them. And then that policy will actually be cheaper for them than what they're paying for the ACV because of it'll go from vacant to tenant occupied. So yeah, they'll be good. It'll work out.
Oh man, most definitely. It definitely sounds like it worked out. So I mean, there's a lot of things on top of saving money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So saving on those premiums. We've been in a lot of fire burn properties,
Yeah.
right? Most recently, well, we can go back to the one that we actually had JV on. Um, fire. We were all sleeping in the middle of the night. Fire happens in the kitchen, or fire happens in the basement, whatever. And we are woken up to smoke,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and let's just say 90%. Well, let's just say 50% of our house burned down, but we have insurance in place. What would be our next steps on getting, well, I wouldn't say policy fulfilled, but getting some help, from a policy.
Yeah. So those work very fast. So yeah, if definitely you have one of those situations, it don't matter. You could call me at midnight. You're like, yo, David, my house is literally on fire. The fire department's here. Like, I don't even know what to do next. And I'm going to answer that call. I'm going to be at your house right there with you. But we're going to get that claim going pretty quick. So fire claims get escalated fast. Like it'd probably be midnight. I'd get that claim submitted. I mean, before the sun was up, you'd be getting phone calls from adjusters like on their way over, starting to get this process going, like cutting checks that morning. So yeah, that process would move pretty quick. But and then after that, you get with me. We'd put you up wherever you needed to go, whether hotel, apartment, house, whatever it may be. We can get you in. We're putting you up. We're covering the cost. Then the second thing is we'll start working on restoration teams to come in, clean up the property, start cutting some fat checks, and trying to get your house back in order as quick as we can. So yeah,
Mm,
we make
That's
it smooth.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. Now you had mentioned the hail, and Missouri, which we get a lot of hail. We also get a lot of winds, tornadoes,
Yeah,
right? So have you dealt with any tornado claims?
yeah. I've had a few. Nothing recent. I think I had a small one back in like 2019 or 2020. Man, it's been a minute. Yeah. So I've only had one. We got pretty fortunate that nothing like they didn't lose the house. So it was just like debris was everywhere. Most of the shingles were gone. They had some broken windows. So I got pretty lucky in those ones that it was like they didn't lose a home. Their yard just got jacked up and we had to put a new roof on. So they were fine. But yeah, those ones went pretty good. So, but yeah, those ones get crazy because people have the expectation, and I'm sure like you do as well. If something happened, you kind of want, you want your money in, you want everything fixed, you want it to be done tomorrow. And then people get mad at the insurance company, like, why aren't I getting my money? Like, why isn't this getting done? And I think sometimes they forget all we do is cut the check. You know what I mean? That's it. We ain't putting the roof on. We ain't putting the new windows in. We're not fixing your gutters. We cut a check. That's it. So yeah, if you start seeing delays, especially like when a huge tornado came through, every roofing company, siding company, gutter company, I mean, they're going to go nuts because they're going to have 200-300 homes that are calling them to put new roofs on. So it may just be a waiting game for us to be able to know how much this roof's going to cost you, to know what who we're cutting a check to know even how much it needs to go out. So it gets crazy. Yeah, they keep those roofing companies in business, though.
Man, I bet it do. I remember a few years. Well, I remember when the tornado had happened in Joplin, and at this time I was actually a contractor for Vivint. I still contract for Vivint Home Security, and
Yeah,
they had these stories about being down in Joplin, and they had actually went through, was helping some people clean up. If you had Vivint was replacing some people's homes.
oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, man. Like if you had that Vivint system in place, whatever, a Vivint definitely took care of you. We are in Southwest Missouri. It definitely floods a lot around here, a lot, right? How high is the flood claim versus, say the hailstorm claim.
Ooh, yeah, hailstorm all day. Yeah. Hailstorm. I've been lucky. I've never had to file a flood claim. Wrote a bunch of flood policies. Haven't had to deal with a claim yet. But yeah, hail all the time. I feel like we're filing those monthly. Even when there's no hail, we're still getting hail claims. Like it makes no sense. Yeah, yeah.
You
Sheriff
said
Power.
monthly. Yeah, yeah. Because there's times where I've been driving down the street. Excuse me, guys. I had a long day today. But yeah, like there's been times I was driving down the street and the hail has been so big. I've thought to myself, I wonder what's this doing to parked cars. That may be in someone's driveway, and what is this doing to people's roofs, right? Because I figure if you get a big enough piece of hail to come down, we might be in some trouble. Hold on, guys, 1 second. So don't David come back in. We just lost him. Give me 1 second.
Real estate investors, are you wanting to scale your real estate investing business? Batch leads is the answer. Why? Because direct to seller marketing is the key. It's finding motivated sellers. And with batch leads, you can skip trace, you can list stack, you can market via SMS or direct mail. It is truly the answer to scaling your business. Check it out and sign up today.
That's great. We are back. Dave Kinsman. Dave, we lost you there for a second.
Yeah, say that one more time.
I said we lost you there for a second.
Yeah. I was trying to just make sure I was good, and I guess I decided I just needed a break. We just needed a little commercial there for a second.
Hey man, I get it, guys. I get it, man. Guys, once again, that ad that you guys saw, that was Vaseline, get your 7-day trial. The Vaseline, guys, the link is in the description. Now, David, tell us about the transition from. Let's talk about the transition from the military to as what some would consider the corporate world, right? Because you're, like you're an insurance guy, right? So you're in the corporate world. Tell us about the transition, because last week's guest, Kelly Harden, was also in the military as well. So tell us about the transition, man, from actually coming into the microphone. Excuse me, my microphone was cracked.
Yeah.
Jeez. It's probably T-Mobile, man. It's always T-Mobile.
I was over here thinking it was me. I was like, oh man, my phone's messing up. I thought it was me again.
It's T-Mobile. Sorry about that. But yeah, so let's talk. Actually, before we talk about that, we do got a question on the screen. It says, "What do you think about insurance for eviction, where the tenant squats and you lose rent, then come in and the property is trashed and damaged? Is there a type of coverage I can get to cover these scenarios?"
Yeah, so the squatter's going to be a tough one if they just come in and trash your place. Um, if you have a policy in place anyways, you should be fine. But that's a tricky one because you're gonna run into several different issues. Assuming you have let's say a tenant occupied, just normal dwelling policy, those normally have a vacancy clause on average of roughly 90 days. So most of them will give you 3 months to clean up the property, get a new tenant in it. And so if that squatter moved in on day, not 89, but didn't leave until day 180, then you're past your vacancy clause. So that can get tricky on you as well, whether that insurance company will pay out that claim. Now, if you have a vacant rehab policy, it's a little bit different because your vacancy clause is longer. The other issue you're going to run into is, from my understanding, none of them is going to cover any court cost. So if there's court costs that come along with evicting this person, lawyers, anything like that, they're probably not going to cover anything like that. But let's say you had a tenant, let's assume this person's a tenant and their lease expired, whatever, they just quit paying rent, whatever the case is, and they're, you're trying to go through the eviction and they're not leaving. Technically that property isn't vacant because the lease was still there. It's the same person. Like no insurance company is going to get away with, crying about a vacancy clause in it. So you're 100% good in that scenario. But yeah, so if they decide they didn't want to leave and then they trash your entire property on the way out, the policies we have, well, you're 100% covered all day long, like no issues. So I get all my people set up. So especially like if you have multiple rental properties, we'll get you all set up on one policy. And in that policy, your vacancy clause is for a while. You got plenty of time to be getting people out. But during that vacancy, same issue. They trash the place. They're on there. What you finally get them out, you will be covered for all the damages that happened in there. And then you can also apply for loss of or business income. So you can apply for the loss of business income or loss of rent, loss of earnings, whatever what the insurance company wants to call it. We call it loss of business income. But you can apply for that. And you just show them, hey, here's the lease. They're supposed to pay $900 a month. They were there for X amounts in it, and then now I have to have this place unrentable for another 3-4 months until I can get the house rehabbed back again after they trashed it. Yeah, we're cutting the check for that too. Yeah, you're covered in that sense.
Wow.
Yeah, and we've done it. I've seen it. I've seen it on Airbnbs. Had one of my people had a tree fall on the house, and they had to cancel the booking they had that day because it fell in the house. So wasn't a very safe place. And then they had bookings followed up for the following next 3 weeks. And they had to cancel all those bookings because they knew it was going to take a while to get roofers down to fix it, get new decking done, new gutters, side, make the house safe again. So, yeah, not also we're fixing all that stuff for them, no problems. We're also going to pay all the cancellations for those time frames they had to do for the loss of business income. So, yeah, we're cutting the check on all that. They're good.
No doubt, man. So we only got a few minutes left here, man. So what I want to dig in to real fast is the transformation, right? Well, not the transformation, the transition from the military to insurance, right? Or did you go right into the insurance from the military? Like, how did that transition happen for you?
Yeah, pretty much got out, opened my agency. So yeah. Now I was doing insurance before I got out. So had some experience, was working for someone else, was figuring it out, got out, opened up my own business, opened up the agency in my name, got that thing rolling. So no, it was awesome. I thought challenging. I didn't really have an issue with it. So I don't know. I didn't struggle. I wasn't one of those people that struggled with it, but just do it.
So now let's talk about the name. Right? Farm Bureau Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you name it Farm Bureau Insurance?
Yeah, so I didn't name it. So Farm Bureau, kind of like a State Farm and Allstate, American Family, they're a big name. So they just had an opportunity that I could get in with them and kind of do it underneath that. And so then, I offer Farm Bureau insurance, but I also have a bunch of other companies that we can also offer as well outside of Farm Bureau. But Farm Bureau is kind of the main one that I partnered with to get it done.
That is awesome, bro. So you got levels of support.
Yeah.
Going on here, right? So if anybody wanted to get home insurance, right? Well, I got 3 questions for you before we go, right? Well, I guess 3 types of scenarios, right?
Okay.
Someone's buying a house that's closing, and the house gets torn down, right? It was a tear down. Nobody knew.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So first house gets torn down at the close, right? The second house gets a fire. Third house gets, somebody from Kansas Expressway drives a car on the road, right? What are 3 types of insurance, or if we can wrap this up in one policy, what would those types be, and what would that policy be?
Yeah, so if you were working with me on it and you had all those properties, I'd try to put it under one commercial policy. And a few reasons I like those one policies. For a lot of people, it's pretty easy because they get, one renewal, one bill. It's all right there for them. They're not dealing with tons of different mail, for all these different dates, it's all coming, it's all on one. So it makes it simple. The second reason I like it is there's one deductible. So you could have 3 homes, 20 homes, 100 homes. Doesn't matter if you have one property that's damaged, 20 properties, as long as it's kind of the same occurrence, it's a single deductible. So, I mean, you're talking thousands on thousands and thousands of dollars you're potentially saving if you had to file a claim because it all happened at once. So that was the one. That's probably the one I'd recommend the most. But yeah, for all those scenarios, the teardown one would be a tough one. On the teardown one, did the property get tear down before or after they closed?
So shouts out to John Manning.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
this actually happened to a property. Somebody called me to JV on the property. And,
yeah.
I know what kind of properties that Josh Manning buys. So, I hooked him up to, hey, y'all, I got the property over here. We went, we saw it, they made an offer, they closed on it, and they said literally like 2 days after they closed on it, they got a bill for $18,000 from the city, because the city came and tore the property. If they had insurance for that property when they closed on it, if the city tore that down, would they be able to?
Yeah, so again, going back to the policy, as long as they had it. So like on our commercial one, we have 10 or 20. It's either 10 or 20,000. I'm blanking on it on the top of my head, but it's one of those two numbers for city ordinance issues. So, if they had to do something like that, where it was a city issue for like an ordinance complaint or anything like that, where it could fall under that, yeah, we potentially could have paid out to $10,000 for that and covered it. But that one was a tricky one because the city got involved. So, I mean, buy a policy and 10 days later you're filing a claim because the city tore it down. I would imagine you're gonna have to go through like an insurance investigation because I would assume someone up there is gonna be like, this looks suspicious. Yeah, that one's a tricky one. I have yet to have that happen to even have to look into it to see how that claim process would go. That'd be a very stressful day.
That's a tricky scenario because they have to bought the property, and I'm pretty sure when Jason's contract with the homeowners, they didn't tell him that this place is about to be torn down or anything like that, or even if they had. But when those guys got it, knocked it down. Yeah, they were stuck with that deal, man.
Yeah. Whew. That's rough. Yeah, I would have.
I think this thing's really cracking up. I got echo going here.
Yeah, you're echoing and
cracking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, man, really quick. Before we go, tell people how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah.
They want to insure their properties as well.
Yeah. No, that would be awesome because I definitely like working with investors. So pretty easy to get a hold of. I mean, you can easily Google me. You're gonna find me all over Google. So whether you just put in David Kinsman Farm Bureau. Honestly, I think if you can just put in David Kinsman, I'll pop up. Put in Farm Bureau, Springfield, Missouri. I know I'm gonna pop up. So very easy to Google. You can also give me a call. So I'm gonna straight out give you my cell. So call me on my cell if you want to get a hold of me. But at 417-281. 8426. So pretty easy to get a hold of there. And then you can email me at david.kinsman@MOFB. So pretty easy to reachable there. If you can get me on Facebook, Instagram. I've had people message me through Google. So you can go to like my Google business page and message me. I've had people do it there. I've had people hit me up on Instagram. I mean, shoot, if there's a way to send that message, I'll respond to it. So I'm pretty easy to get to.
Most definitely, guys. You guys get with David really quick. Now, really quick, David, within this last minute, I just want to go ahead and thank you, man, for, ensuring everybody, man, coming on, teaching us, a few things, different, insurances that we may need for our investment properties. Like I said, a lot of people don't think about this part of investing, right?
Yeah.
They just buy a policy, as you said, they just buy a policy for my house, and then next thing you know, that policy won't cover nothing, if something happens. So, very important that every investor has the right insurance for the properties, no matter what stage you're going in. Whether you're just not closing, whether you guys are rehabbing, or whether, it's tenant occupied, or whether it's tenant occupied. So, man, once again, thank you.
Yeah.
For coming, thank you for coming on the show, man. We definitely appreciate it. We definitely got to bring you back on the show. This one obviously started late, and for some reason, you sound like a robot on the other end. So,
Next time let's get in person and do it.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Want to
We
deal with
actually
some of
here in the
these issues.
city, and I believe that'll be more, convenient and more, more presentable, right? Because we're actually in the same city, so we got to sit down, have coffee. I got my brother, man. He's a great cameraman, man. One of the best I know. So, go ahead and get him involved, and on the one-on-ones. You know what I mean? Because if you were in Detroit, this is fine, right?
Yeah.
But we literally probably like 15 minutes away from each other. So, we can jump in and maybe have a private podcast at Applebee's or something. You know what I mean? Something like that. So. Talk about real estate and beer or something, it's anything, man. So, once again, thanks for coming, guys. Once again, this is David Kinsman, Farm Bureau Insurance. You guys can find David Kinsman also in the Wholesaling with Lenny group. He's also in the group, guys. So if you guys need any insurance, hit David Kinsman up. You don't have to be in Missouri to be insured by David Kinsman. So, guys, hit David Kinsman up once again. He's at Farm Bureau Insurance, and he's actually in the group. We got one more. Somebody said, "What up, fellas? What up, man?" Guys, I know a lot of you guys are wondering right now why it also says, why it only says Facebook user on there and not someone's name, right? And that's because, guys, I use StreamYard, right? I use StreamYard for all my podcasts, and I'm also a StreamYard affiliate. So this is why you see all the cool StreamYard tags everywhere and not my own logo, because I'm actually promoting StreamYard because I'm an affiliate. Guys, if you want a free 14-day trial, click the link that's below, that's scrolling across the screen, and you can do a lot more with your podcast. Guys, take your podcast to different levels, man, with StreamYard. And guys, once again, don't forget, you got 7-day trial of batch leads. The link is in the description. You get 1,000 leads in 7 days, and as soon as you sign up for that batch leads, you will be working with me directly until you close your first deal. So, guys, once again, man, thanks, David, for coming on to the show. We really appreciate you, man. And if anybody need anything insurance related, reach out to David Kinsman, man, over at Farm Bureau Insurance, and I'm pretty sure he'll hook you up. David, you got any advice for the people before you go?
Yeah. Buy life insurance from your insurance agent when he asks for you to, and don't lie about what you're doing at your properties to get a cheaper insurance policy, because if they deny that claim, you just lost thousands. So don't waste your time lying. Just get the right stuff you need the first time.
I know. Bobby just texted me. So my mic ain't right. He said, your mic ain't right, bro.
Yeah. We'll get it fixed. You sell one of those properties, you can afford one of those newer mics.
I know, man. Give me a new mic. Going on. But hey, David, man. Once again, thanks again, bro, for coming on. And man, it's been good talking to you guys. Thanks for joining me in for another episode of Wholesaling with Lenny.
All right, man. I'll catch you later.
No doubt, man. Thanks so much for stopping by. Guys, stay tuned for a word from our sponsors.
Astro Flippers, TTPers, everyone who's doing wholesale, everyone who's doing cold calling. I'm Jamil Damji with Keegley, and I'm here to talk to you today about batch leads. Now, Keegley is known as being the best at dispositions in the country. But how do you think we got like that? Because we're damn good at acquisition. Batch leads has been a game changer for us. You get SMS blasting, instant skip tracing, list stacking. This stuff is crazy, guys. You gotta get through it.